So I guess we'll go ahead and get started.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Carrie, would you like to do the roll call, please?
Mr. Steinberg,
Here.
Mrs. Rorich,
Here.
Mr. White,
Here.
Mr. Lewis,
Here.
Mayor Whittington.
Here. Just want to open up for any public comments. So if anybody that's not here, or that's not on the agenda, it doesn't look like anyone else. You guys are on the agenda here in a few minutes, so perfect. All right. So we have two additional agenda items to add to number 9 and number 10 for our agenda. Basketball backstops at the park and the solar on public buildings grant. So any other additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to pull out for any more discussion on the consent agenda? No? All right. I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any other conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we'll get scheduled guest here, Ms. Moore. You got-
Mayor Whittington, may I interrupt? Deputy City Clerk Roush, remind me, we need to approve the minutes. So if you wouldn't mind doing that.
We do, seriously. All
Thank
right.
you.
So I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Second.
We have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Anything else that I missed? Just trying to get through the night, all right? Yes, please, thank you.
Hello, council members. Thank you for having me. My name is Jenna Moore, and I'm a lifelong resident of Eagle Lake. I currently reside at 712 Maple Lane. I'm here to request that the city council consider adding language to the current ordinances regarding overgrown grass and weeds, and consider adopting a specific ordinance as it relates to pollinator gardens. While the intent of the state ordinance is valuable, its language is quite vague, and without additional specifics within city codes, it lacks details that can lead to confusion for residents, inconsistent enforcement, and unintended conflicts within city codes and some neighbors. My backyard butts up to quite the garden. I, along with other neighbors, have called it in several times as it is unmaintained. Garrett, I'm gonna put you on the spot. How tall are you?
I'm 6'6".
So some of these weeds are over 7 feet tall. They have a 6-foot fence and they tower over that fence. So just for reference, that's how tall they are. Measuring 1/10 of an acre, the garden is home to ragweed and Canadian thistle. It sits directly on my property line along with 4 others. I was told Public Works Department came to look at the garden and determined it was native grasses. Then I had Blue Earth County come to evaluate, and he agreed that not only were there noxious weeds, but the garden contained turf grass that was well over the 6 inches that our city allows. He enforced removal of the Canadian thistle, which still has not been completed. However, he said the city needs to enforce its own codes related to the grass and plants that have gone to seed and are over 6 inches. Furthermore, because of the ragweed and lamb's quarters, my family simply cannot be outdoors. I wish I were being dramatic here. My daughter has never had allergies in her 16 years, and within the last 6 months, she's been unable to breathe without difficulty outdoors. My husband cannot mow our lawn without being swollen in the face and eyes after 45 minutes of being outdoors, and we haven't opened our windows since last summer. Our neighbors' young children have been stung multiple times in the last month while simply trying to enjoy their backyard. Our neighbors, as well as we, have thistle popping up throughout our lawns, an issue that has never happened until this garden began this year. Because of its location, it's impossible for the current owners to maintain their garden without stepping into all of our yards. For the record, City Code Chapter 3 dictates that any weeds or growth, noxious or not, that are over 6 inches or have gone to seed are considered a public nuisance. Additionally, Chapter 3 covers enjoyment of one's property and states that any condition that unreasonably affects one's comfort or health shall be declared a nuisance. When property owners are unable to use their yard because their neighbor is growing one of the most common allergens like ragweed, to me, that's affecting our comfort and our health. Several cities throughout Minnesota have adopted ordinances that aim to address pollinator or natural grass gardens. All have a height limit, usually between 6 to 10 inches for native grasses. All have an exclusion for noxious weeds, as does the state of Minnesota. Furthermore, several cities dictate that a maintained garden must have a hard border, and have a setback of 2 to 5 feet from neighboring properties. I would encourage you all to review the ordinances related to pollinator gardens from Marshall, where gardens cannot be closer than 5 feet to a neighboring property. North Mankato's ordinance allows managed and intentional plantings with specifics about maintenance. Weeds or plantings must not go to seed, and grasses cannot be above 8 inches. Other cities even require permits for natural landscape areas that are over 8 inches in height, where the property owner must abide by rules set forth like setbacks from property lines, size limitations, annual maintenance, and periodic cutting. This garden, while maybe intentional at first, and I do believe that it was, has been unmanaged and unmaintained for 4 months. It is not flowers or native grasses as one would think of when they're told their neighbors are planting a pollinator garden. It's weeds and grass that have now gone to seed, and it needs to be addressed according to our current code. Beth, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and this is rhetorical, so I'm not going to. I know you have a delicate balance of both council member and a neighboring property, but you are working on a beautiful outdoor space. Knowing all the work you've put into your yard and seeing what you'll get to look at if the city continues to not enforce its ordinance has to be disappointing at best. Maybe you, your children, your family, or friends have allergies. After all the work you've put in, you may not be able to enjoy the space with those people. I can't imagine how that would make you feel. Anthony, again, not putting you on the spot, but also, as a fellow realtor, wouldn't you agree that weeds of this size and height would be a deterrent to buyers and would even potentially decrease the values of homes around it? I know when I bring buyers into homes, one of the first things we look at is neighboring properties and how they care for their lawn and their property. This would be a major deterrent to me as a buyer, and as a realtor, it's something I would definitely be taking note of. My goal for today is, number one, spend some time truly investigating this specific location and how it doesn't comply with city code. Action needs to be taken so we, along with our neighbors, can begin to truly enjoy the properties in our properties in our yards. It's an eyesore, it's unhealthy, and it violates code. While there may have been pollinator-friendly seeds planted, and like I said, I do believe that there were, it has been taken over by weeds. This state statute dictates that natural landscapes or pollinator gardens must be managed, and this very much is not. Additionally, I think Eagle Lake can benefit from furthering the conversation of pollinator gardens, their benefit, and how to have them around our community without adverse effects on humans, biodiversity, and, of course, in my real estate brain, property values. Working to adopt an ordinance like some of the cities I mentioned above would alleviate the confusion that we all feel as to what is allowable and what is not. Please take time in the coming days to stop by my home at 712 Maple. You are each welcome to use my yard and come take a look in person, as driving by simply does not suffice. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Chris, were you going to speak?
You have this on an agenda item later on, so we can discuss it as part of your agenda. So you want to talk about what you want to do, I can make comments regarding that. Your city code section is invalid. The statute usurps it in 2023. 8 inches is required under the statute, so that code section needs to be revised in some fashion because it's not enforceable as it is written. You know, so you could take a look at that. I certainly don't disagree with the city being able to go ahead and have something for managed natural gardens. Quite frankly, the reason for the statute in the Court of Appeals case that was decided was litigated by me through North Mankato. I drafted North Mankato's current ordinance. You know, I think it's a good ordinance. I think there's some ways you can take a look at it. But, you know, the idea that we can go in and do something regarding 6 inches, clearly we can't. If it goes longer than that, as to how much it can go for if it's native grasses. And that's kind of a misnomer because the statute doesn't really talk about native grasses. It talks about basically almost anything that somebody wants to plant as long as it's not a noxious weed. You certainly can go in and enforce and take out noxious weeds at this point. And Mr. Mayor, you are technically the weed inspector for the city, so you could go in there and investigate if you have that expertise, but there's a list of what's noxious and what's not. And I don't believe ragweed is considered by the state at this point a noxious weed. Yeah, Canadian thistle is, and I know that the county came in and looked, which we were very grateful for, and that they're taking care of some of that, but that also gives us kind of a double-edged sword because the items that are not necessarily noxious weeds currently would be enforceable. So you can do something. It's just a matter of what you want to do and how you want to kind of go forward. The property owners, in regards to a lot of the claims that they also have, independently of anything that the city does regarding a nuisance action, have the opportunity to bring a private public nuisance action to go regarding their damages. And that would be appropriate anytime we're talking about allergies, lost property values, those type of things are better served between the property owners because we can't try to accommodate or even litigate issues regarding the loss of property values, though they certainly could. And I know that there's a lot of animosity between the property owners, but those are all things that are probably beyond what the city looks at. But when we get back to the agenda item, we're talking about certain ideas. I'll go into a little bit more detail what I'd look at there. But just to get in the code section, for better or worse, in 2023 when they enacted that statute, they took over that. I disagree with the statute. I would love it if everybody lobbied their legislatures. I think that was improperly taken out of the hands of cities in an attempt to do so, but that was the intent when it was passed, to take this directly out of the hands of cities and put it back into individual property owners, regardless of how their neighbors felt about it.
Okay. So we'll do some more later on here. So moving on to the first presentation we have, Aaron Johnson. Perfect. You want to kind of step up to the podium? Perfect.
All right. Thank you so much for having me today. It's great to be here. My name is Aaron. I am the Philanthropy Director with Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. I'm just here to give a brief overview of the work that we're doing in your area, in your community, some upcoming opportunities, and yeah, I'm just very pleased to be here with you all. Starting out, I know you are very familiar, most of you, with Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, but I'm just going to give a general overview of our key areas of focus. So for those of you who are not familiar or need a refresher, SMIF is a donor-supported foundation, and we invest for economic growth in the 20 counties of south central and southeastern Minnesota. This includes 175 communities in one native nation. Our key interests of focus are entrepreneurship, early childhood development, and community vitality. So far, SMIF has invested over $170 million in the region since 1986. Starting out with entrepreneurship, our goal here is to make sure entrepreneurs in our region have the resources needed to thrive. First and foremost, we do this through lending. We're a gap lender and work in partnership with other organizations to meet the needs of entrepreneurs. We can help those just starting out all the way up to equity investments. So we aim to be accessible in that way. One of the great benefits of partnering with SMIF on a loan package is that even if we are a small part, we can provide one-on-one technical assistance tailored to the individual. Moving on to some of our programming, like I said, we aim to be accessible. Overcoming obstacles is important. We have programming such as the Prosperity Initiative. This serves individuals who are from a background or some sort, face extra barriers or obstacles, for example, veterans, people who are below the federal poverty threshold level, and so on. We come in and we provide 12 months of one-on-one coaching tailored for that individual. Also, REV, Rural Entrepreneurial Ventures Programming. This is where we come into the community and look at who's here and uplift current entrepreneurs. the traditional model very much looks from the outside and attracting them and bringing them into the community. We look at who's here and we want to build them up. Moving on to early childhood, our goal here is to make sure that children are ready to learn by age 3. It is statistically shown that if they aren't, it's hard to catch up. And we want everyone to have a chance to be successful members of our communities. Also, as everyone here is aware, we are in the middle of a nationwide childcare shortage, meaning that not all of our kids have a place to go with quality care. And also this means that parents have to unfortunately leave the workforce sometimes. So we're tackling this by supporting current providers. We provide free develop-approved trainings, both virtually and in person. Develop-approved means that they receive their needed continuing education credits by attending, and we serve around 1,000 annually this way as well. We do have a consultant in our office who will come and work with the community. I'd be happy to put you in touch with that individual if you are interested. Basically, he would come and look at the shortage needs and develop a plan free of charge and can be accessed on our website as well. But I would be happy to be that bridge as well. And finally, we provide grants in this area. So for example, our early care and education grant. This is to support children with social, emotional support, mental and physical support as well. Many times this translates also into additional trainings for providers and professionals. Through our partnership with Abdo and Capstone and Mankato, we give out around 30,000 books a year. This is for children to keep and create their own libraries. And moving on to our last area of focus, community vitality. This is focused on our smaller communities, typically with populations under 10,000. We have the Small Town Grant Program, which is focused on creating a culture of collaboration and belonging in a community. Also Paint the Town, promoting community beautification, volunteerism, and engagement. We provide the paint for murals, historical structures, and public art, and then the community rallies around a really cool cause and does the painting. And finally, our affiliate fund program, under which we have 147 funds. We are their fiscal 501c3 host. Of those, 33 are community foundations, which I know that recently Eagle Lake has a community foundation under Smith's umbrella, which is fantastic. And actually, just before leaving the office today, my colleague said to mention that she's always available to continue being a resource in that development as well. So I'd be happy to connect you with Alyssa, our Vice President of Community Vitality and Philanthropy. So of course, you guys know, but we do all the administrative back office work, all the tax stuff, kind of the more legal stuff, if you will, allowing for volunteers to raise money and invest in their community. I just want to direct your attention here to the county fact sheet. You'll see in your folder. So for every dollar that is donated from Blue Earth County, $14 is invested back into Blue Earth communities. So far, just countywide, 63 loans have been issued to support entrepreneurs, 711 grants to support community projects, $24 million has been invested by Smith into Blue Earth County through grants, loans, and programming. If you look on the back, you'll just see some of our recent examples of our work. For example, $10,000 through the Early Care and Education Grant was awarded to YMCA Mankato to help provide space for parent education and building relationships with others. 4,000 English books and 100 Spanish books were awarded to Mankato Kiwanis Foundation. Entrepreneurship, not too far from here, is the Pickle Barn. They were a loan client of ours. Moving down to Community Vitality Spotlight, for example, $15,600 Taylor Grant was awarded to the City of Lake Crystal. And around 1,300, just under 1,300, so 1,297 children have been supported, 159 entrepreneurs supported just here in this county, which is fantastic. You know, Smith could never do it alone. We are very much a supplemental agency, and we work, our big thing is we work in partnership with everyone, with cities, with counties, with other organizations, and that's how we believe that we get things accomplished in our region, and those partnerships are absolutely key. And I want to thank you, everyone here, for supporting us for many years. And we hope that the impact of what we are doing is felt here. I know, as I was looking at my notes, some of the most recent work was revolving around that community foundation aspect. Otherwise, there was some grants awarded to Eagle Lake back in 2021. So while there isn't a whole ton of our most recent work to demonstrate today, our hope is very much that that will change and that your community will feel supported as well. I do want to, if I can find it here in just a second, I just would like to go over some of our early child care work here in this area. Excuse me. So our early child care training sessions in 2023, 2024, they're region-wide. 31 early childhood sessions were provided in 2023, for example, free of charge. Anyone from our region can attend. We had around 1,000 attendees that year to these events. Blue Earth County had 78 attendees. That was about $3,900 value there. And again, in 2024, same deal, but 82 attendees from Blue Earth County. Our technical assistance has supported just here in Blue Earth County alone 4 early child care providers on topics like wages, news center, provider morale, and so on. Really just, again, those are businesses, and we want to make sure that we can support those entrepreneurs as well in the pivotal role that they play in our community. That was around a $6,500 value in 2023. And again, in 2025, just this recent here, we've supported 4 early child care providers on topics like matching supply to needs, staffing and leadership, and operations improvement from providers in Mankato, Lake Crystal. That was around a $16,000 support right there. In total, it was just in the last 3 or 4 years, I should say, the support that we've brought back into the community, those leveraged dollars, that amount is roughly around $870,396 total dollars. So thank you so much for your support, and our ask is that you would consider us for your fiscal year 2026 budget to the amount of $1,000, as is congruent with the past support. So,
Perfect. Anybody have any questions for Aaron? No, I think we will definitely consider it. You know, we have it in the kind of preliminary right now, right? So perfect. So, yeah. No, I think you guys are doing a lot of good work, and I know that we've been kind of dancing around the 503C thing, trying to get enough community support to kind of get that back and up and running too. So hopefully we can get that rolling here soon. We very much appreciate what you guys do around the community and around the county. So
thank you. Can I share one more number? I just wanted to give you the numbers actually for that community foundation matching support from 2023 to 2025. $15,087 has been leveraged back into that support through those matching grants and so on. I just want to give you that for your
no,
notes.
this is perfect. No,
But thank you.
Thank you.
So,
All right. Thanks, Aaron.
thank you so much.
All right, we'll head on to new business. So schedule a public hearing to consider amendments to the city code related to natural landscapes.
I kind of alluded to some of this in my previous comments. Your current code section is pretty much invalid. The language we have in there has been taken over by the statute. The statute provides that any grasses basically can be up to 8 inches. And while we talk about natural gardens or we talk about native species, the actual wording of the statute itself talks about native and non-native. So if you have something that's managed, unless it's a noxious weed or apparently a turf grass, you know, it can grow to whatever height may be appropriate. I do agree with the comments that were made in the presentation that the statute itself is somewhat difficult to interpret and hasn't been, you know, litigated at this point. It talks about a managed lawn care, but it doesn't really give us a strong definition of what's meant by managed. I know for other cities that have similar areas that they do on their own, North Mankato having 3 or 4 natural gardens that is put in place, they don't actually take a lot of time for staff. or for the city crews to maintain and manage. You know, so I'm not sure exactly what we'd be looking there or not, but my reading of the statute is you can obviously make restrictions to that. You know, North Mankato being a good example, because I wrote that ordinance. If you guys want to take a look at that and what you can go forward, I think that's something that you can. You know, so I think there are some places where the city can go look doing that. But I think when you have the public hearing and as the council kind of goes forward, two things. First off, I think the public hearing is very important to give everybody the opportunity to do that. While here we have a group of property owners that are concerned about the effects of the natural garden. North Mankato, we had that same type of group that came in. We tried to enforce the current ordinance at that time, got a lot of publicity and litigation for trying to enforce it at that time, and the result was the creation of this ordinance or the statute. So it's good to make sure that you have everybody, you know, and that was all community driven, that there was a number of members of the community and a number of city hall meetings where other members were very much in favor of natural gardens. So I think it's important to get an overall view of what your entire community may or may not want there. You know, and it may be that you will have a public hearing and nobody shows up, but that says a lot too. You know, and you just kind of take a look at it. But I do think that there needs to be something. We know that the current, you know, code section, you know, that you have is not something that we can enforce. The other big question is really going to be a matter of enforcement. If we're going to have something that's in place, how do we look at enforcing this? You don't currently really have a police department. The sheriff's department isn't qualified really to go out there and make these kind of adjustments, or more specifically, the county attorney's office is not going to prosecute them on a criminal basis. That means that we have to have something that we're looking at doing on a civil basis. You know, what we did in North Mankato worked there, though even there I'm getting a little concerned about it, is we required that if you have a managed natural garden, that you have to kind of give a plan and maintain a plan with the city. I think something to that effect is something that's doable. I think that's something that's reasonable under the statute and taking a look at it, but that does put additional burdens on City Hall. You know, you have somebody who's going out there, taking a look, and making sure what's being maintained is what they have there. You have the licensing kind of facilities. Though you guys aren't as bad as Lake Crystal is, you know, over the last 5 years, you probably have added, you know, 3 or 4 duties just because you had to on City Hall. You know, at this time of year, you're always looking at budgets and try to figure out how you can keep that 0%, you know, raise and kind of keep those costs down. This is all something that would necessarily put additional burdens on there. So I think that's something that has to be considered as to kind of going forward. And the reasons for it, I'd like to put those in whatever we have for the ordinance. Property values is something I have done for nuisance properties in the past, and we can take a look at it. Incredibly difficult for the city to enforce. You know, trying to figure out how we come in there and have experts that come in and do that. So it's not only difficult to kind of have what those numbers are if we're looking at trying to do that in a civil or criminal matter. We're having to hire an expert that comes out and says, this is what it was worth before this neighbor had this garden, this is what's worth afterwards. And then at the end of the day, we can't ask for that difference. We can say that that's an element of proving that it's a nuisance and that we need to do something to kind of rectify it. So for natural gardens, and I'll answer any questions that you have, you know, it's something that you have to allow. It's not something that we can eliminate. We can say that you can't have, you know, turf grasses more than 8 inches, but it's going to be a question of how do we determine what managed is and what does that look like?
I think you're right. I think it'd be a good idea to have a public hearing to kind of get some input. I would like to take a look at the commercial code as well. I'm really concerned that basically an ordinance that been superseded, that's not a kind of,
Yep.
you know, by the state, so see how we can comply with that.
It's somewhat uncommon that the state would take these kind of actions, particularly in this place. I mean, and there is some thought that they may have overstepped what they really legally could do. North Mankato just got done with litigation on the issue, so they were not interested in necessarily pushing the boundaries there. I don't think Eagle Lake's interested in pushing the boundaries and going back to the Court of Appeals. You've just spent the last 5 years there for other reasons, you know, so it's not dissimilar to marijuana. You know, it's something that needs to get challenged and get better defined, you know, because the legislature didn't do a good job of it. It's just a matter of who's going to do that. You know, in marijuana, I think we've seen that either Austin or Albert Lee, and I confess I get the two confused in my head sometimes. One or the other is going to be litigating that matter that the state went too far in trying to restrict it, and that's good. I think that they'll give us some definitions and take a look at it. I'm just glad it's not Eagle Lake.
So right now, it's public hearing, and then we can change things, or is that kind of the?
Right now would be for a public hearing, and the suggestion is to have the public hearing first, so then you guys can give to Jennifer kind of parameters of what you're looking at, and then I can generate language that tries to go along with what you're looking to have and put in place. Or if I can't, at least explaining to you why I can't. You know, so here's what the concerns are and kind of take a look at it. But I think a public hearing in this particular case is, so sometimes we like having the public hearing after we have the language and say, we want you to consider this as whether or not, this is something that the city can take a look at. This is a type of issue I think you're better served getting initial information. And it may, quite frankly, be one where you have multiple public hearings. You have the initial public hearing, and then when you have the ordinance language, you have a second public hearing in regards to that actual language and see what comments that you receive.
Yeah, it looks horrible, and I'm trying to see what we can do quicker. But,
Yeah, and I kind of disagree with that. You know, I know we're giving things out for public comment and trying to get as much public encouragement on things. I think, it's actually a very good thing for the city, because what cities get accused of all the time is trying to hide things or doing things outside of the public image and trying to get things done too quickly and not letting the public kind of have that say. But more importantly, I think to accommodate what you want to do, if I'm looking at this, what I would hope to have is have an ordinance in place by April or May of next year, so we have it for next summer, and that you certainly have plenty of time to do that. If we were having a public hearing at your next, your next meeting, and we're having a draft ordinance that you're looking at, putting in place in December, January, and there's really no reason that can't happen. And I agree with looking at the Marshall ordinance, and you look at North Mankato and whatever other cities you want to take a look at. I only suggested North Mankato just because I'm very familiar with it because I drafted it.
I apologize. Jenna had sent me some pictures and asked me to put them up when she did her presentation, and I forgot, so I.
I have a question. So is the vagueness in code, like, let's say, there's a lot over in like the areas where we've had them mow at KJ Walk. What's the difference between them letting their yards grow to pollinator gardens and just letting it just be like, they could throw some seeds down and say, hey, we're gonna have a pollinator garden, so we don't have to mow we don't have to hire, a bunch of lawnmowers to mow all of our vacant lots that are going to be built to be houses eventually. So I think that could, the terms are ambiguous. So I don't know. I
think that's where we get into that managed issue, and that's a difficult question because again, the statute doesn't define what that would be. But you are right that would be a concern under the current, standards if they went ahead and just kind of threw a bunch of seeds out there for, wildflowers or not and say it's a pollinator garden. Yeah.
yeah, I had that same thought, because we're sticklers on them. It gets to be 6 inches and we're calling them, and I don't understand how this is okay.
Yeah, because I think that the stuff that would be growing in those
It's
lots
natural.
is this. Yeah, it's natural.
It's and natural gardens is probably a misnomer when they use the language on that, because they talk about a lot of things that aren't natural. They talk about ferns, they talk about allowing orbs, they talk about having flowers that were native to Florida, or planting that would all be allowed in these kind of natural garden portions of it. So it's not just a matter of letting it go back to what it would look like with the prairie. It's basically anything that's not a turf grass. My understanding with KJ Walk is, most of the stuff that we've been looking at there has been turf grasses. And the 6 inches, the city may have been enforcing that under under the statute. It's not enforceable because it's real clear for turf grasses, it has to be 8 inches.
Well, I can tell you there's a lot of turf grass in there. I used to hit a bunch of golf balls there all the time. Yeah, I mean, so say we have an ordinance or whatever, so does someone have to go in there and like spray paint what to cut and what not to cut, or how, I mean, that's gonna be,
If we're looking at noxious weeds, that'd be probably to the extent where you have to go in there and identify that for the property owners. I don't know that the city has anybody on staff that would be qualified to go in there and determine what's a noxious weed and what's not a noxious weed.
What does North Mankato do? Do they hire somebody to come out and look at that, or like a yearly inspection, or?
Generally speaking, unless we have a real specific issue, there is no inspection. There's nothing to go out there and take a look at the noxious weeds. There's just not funding for it. Blue Earth County has one individual that's probably qualified to make those determinations, and he came out on this property. It's a very small list of that things come up there, but unless you have something specific, you have a specific complaint.
can we set a height for any grass, native, whatever? Like, can we just set 6 inches?
Well, but first off, the statute sets 8 inches for turf grasses. Anything, native grasses are going to be longer than that. You will not be able to restrict that height, no.
So I can tell you, speaking from both obviously a neighboring resident, but also council, I have done a lot of research the last month on what is allowable, what isn't allowable, and there's so many gray areas, and it's honestly frustrating because it is so gray. But there is a lot of communities in Minnesota, whether it's small or larger, Bloomington, Rochester, that has example codes, or what their code is, North Mankato, that does have a lot of good things in them that can be a win-win for both neighbors and the resident wanting to plant it, such as setbacks. As some of them make them mow between a certain time, where it restarts everything that is growing long. So I think we really have to do a big deep dive into this. It is a concern of, and frustrated on common ragweed. I mean, if they can't go enjoy their house because they can't go out because of allergens, where does it start, where does it stop? I mean, I asked Administrator Bromland, if I start growing ragweed in my back lot because I don't want to deal with it, is that allowable? I mean, can I just say it's native grass even though it might harm other neighbors? So like, where does it start and where does it stop? And I think that's where it's super frustrating from what the state allows, but in doing some of the research in some of the communities, they did take what that was and really narrow it down to what their community fits within it. And it's like, can we really pull it in and do that? Because I too worked outside the last 2 weekends, 12 hours straight, and my sister and her 2 kids came and they went home and had to put ice packs on their face and take a bunch of medicine, and even today they were struggling. And said, I don't know how much more I can come over until all of that's under control because of their allergies. So
that's where, like, even if there's a 20-foot setback, I still don't think that's acceptable.
So I think that's where it's like, I understand that we have to allow it and not wanting to not allow it, but how can we have a win-win for what is allowable and what neighbors can be comfortable with to still enjoy, whether it's looking out their windows, whether it's playing outside, or a safety piece. This specific property does abut the park, and although kids should not be crossing any residents' yards without permission, or when we have break-ins, what happens if someone goes and hides in there? What happens? I'm seeing cats run in there. I'm seeing more. So where does it start? Where does it stop? I guess is where we, as a council, need to look at it. Of this could get out of control citywide very quickly if we don't have bigger enforcements on them and very clear guidance.
We're just looking at North Mankato's city ordinance, the managed natural landscape. I don't know how anyone can look at that and say that's managed. That looks just like they forgot about it. That's not managed by any reasonableness stretch. That's unmanaged property with maybe some flowers thrown in there at some point. But
Yeah, and I think that's certainly, that's what we'd be looking to try to address. It's kind of that definition of what is managed. And the big question comes in is when you're making that decision and putting something in the code, what's really beneficial is figuring out exactly what you expect and how you expect that that's going to be enforced, kind of going forward. Because you do have code sections that are there, but for all intents and purposes are not enforceable because there's just not the procedures in place or the manpower that can, do so.
We do have the resident here. Can we all have her just come up and say a few words? It's not on the agenda.
That would be up to you, Mr. Mayor. If you want, as part of this, if you think that.
I don't want to kind of get into back and forth is the only issue that I have. I do like the idea of having a public hearing to kind of get some input and then come back with an ordinance. I think this growing season is kind of done for. So how do we, I'd like to kind of look toward that.
I didn't prepare the other property to speak or give them
No
give them
worries.
notice to prepare, so maybe just we'll wait till the public
I'm good.
hearing
We
and
can,
if
we
that's
can have
okay.
a conversation with you later if needed, but I just don't want it to get too riled up on a blustery Monday evening. But I think one is having that resident come back when we have the public hearing, those kind of things. So what would the council desire? I'd like to see the public hearing, like the next one gets more inputs. Take a look at a couple ordinance.
Kind of ask or a comment question, I don't know what it is, but I guess I was kind of wondering too, I myself am ignorant on this topic of what pollinator gardens
I am
should
too.
look like.
So,
And I was kind of looking last week to see, is there somebody that's an expert in this area, maybe with the U of M extension, that could come and talk to the council as well and kind of help us understand? It's hard to enforce something we don't understand.
No, I agree, and I think vagueness
I don't know.
breeds contempt, or not contempt, but malcontent, however you want to. So anything that we can do to kind of sharpen, the definitions around it I think would help both parties. So would the council endeavor to have the public input hearing, in our October meeting?
I have one more question for the city attorney. Would this be a public hearing where we'd have to publish notice in the newspaper, or would it just be more a public hearing, just like we post on our agenda?
There would be no publication requirement, but I would assume you may want to publish notice of it just to get as much attention to it as possible. At least put it on your website to try to get it out there. If the intent is to try to get as much public comment so you get that feedback and you can craft something that takes a look at both sides. But yet we're not, at this point, we don't have an ordinance or anything else that we're, required to do the public notice to.
Look to the council to see if that's what we want to do, or I'm not sure there's any action we're prepared to go forward with tonight. Knowing that our ordinance is not
The only,
binding, kind of
the only
deal.
action would be if you want to set that public hearing for the next meeting. You can obviously go forward and do that.
Yeah, I would like to do that opposed to having the public hearing on an ordinance, because I think, one, with budget coming up and things like that, I'm not sure staff would be able to have anything prepared in less than 30 days now to bring forward for a public hearing. So just having some more input would be better, I would think. So look for a motion for a public hearing.
I'll make a
information.
motion to have a public hearing in our next scheduled October meeting.
We have a first, we have a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Well, I got a question, actually. So,
So,
like, I'm looking at the grass there, and I'm looking like what's behind your house, Anthony. What would be the difference of saying like that's, I think the grass thing is really confusing. So like, what, like wetland grasses and then subdivision grasses, I think it's gonna be a very detailed conversation that we'll have to have, right?
Because we have so many wetlands in Eagle Lake, I know.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you look at that, it's or like mowing, you know, like the ditches are mowed X number of times per year. Is this the type of stuff that needs to be mowed and controlled? So I think that we'll have a lot of research.
Well, that's why I
To
want
do,
to just
right?
do informational next time.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a lot of information that we need to gather on both managed versus unmanaged, turf grass versus native grass.
Well, could someone just go out and take a wildflower packet from Menards and like, if I was the owner of all the lots up there and say, "Psh, I'm growing a pollinator garden, so therefore I don't have to mow any of these lots now." I mean, I could, right? I mean, that's how that is kind of open, right?
It is kind of open that way. In fact, you know, the Borkart case out of North Mankato was almost exactly that. That the property owner was letting their property go to seed, that they threw out a bunch of
Menards.
flowering mixes and things of that nature, that the neighbors thought it looked, you know, like it was running ragged, and they said, no, it's a pollinator garden, we're trying to get bees and other things here, and attract butterflies and things of that nature, and that's what led to litigation, led to the statute change. The actual Court of Appeals case was decided on other reasons, not whether or not they could go ahead and do that, you know, but, you know, it's what kind of led to the whole discussion. So that's what we'd be looking at, trying to control and figure out how we can necessarily control that. In regards to some of the wetlands, you know, some of the other areas, you had language in your current code that talked about how far away it could be from properties. If you're allowing additional weeds or native grasses or whatever we want to call them to grow, allowing it apparently is going to be very fine under the statute. It's just the controlling of it and how do we kind of figure out what that is meant by managed. And I do agree that there doesn't probably make a lot of sense if you're going to have that public hearing to have staff put something together, because all I would provide you at this point is probably a virtual copy of what I put together for North Mankato, and you can, you know, Jennifer can make a copy of that and give you that along with Marshall and a couple other cities.
We have a first and second on the table. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Jennifer, can you get that on the agenda for next week? Next month? Thanks. Anything else? Can we move on to the next item?
I think we have direction from the council on where you guys want to go, so I have nothing else.
Sure.
Unless you have other questions for me.
I think we're good. All right, the next item, a new business, process to sell land in response to 2 inquiries from interested parties. Administrator?
Mayor and City Council, the city received inquiries from 2 residents recently that are interested in acquiring city-owned property that is adjacent to the respective parcels. After conferring with the city attorney, we discussed that before any sale could occur, the city would want to make sure that it follows a structured process to ensure legal requirements and to protect the interests of the community. The first step we discussed was City Council this evening, first being made aware of the inquiries and having discussion with staff as to whether those properties or areas would be considered excess property, meaning that the city doesn't currently need that land. Something that I'll show you a couple pictures in a moment that we want to take into consideration would be our utilities, infrastructure, recreation, or other future needs of the city. So once we look at the properties to determine if they're excess or not, then we need to talk about, well, what's the value of the properties, and then how do we go about the sale of the properties. Typically, when city property is up for sale, you open it up to the public so everybody has an opportunity. In this case, obviously, the properties that have land adjacent to them that they're interested in, there's probably nobody else interested in those parcels, but and just want to be careful too in how the city handles this, and then getting future similar inquiries and setting a precedent. So I'll pull up, there's 2 areas. One is from 429 Owl Lane. And there's, here, I'm going to show you, Public Works Director Hartman and I talked about this, and so where you see, I don't know if you guys can see that, but where it says 429, so the property owner at 429 contacted the city and said they would be interested in purchasing some land near their property. And I don't have a drawing to know what exactly they're looking at, but you'll see the green line is, Andrew got me this picture, is sewer, the orange is stormwater, and then, or storm sewer, sorry. And then the yellow is where we've got our lift station and infrastructure with that. And then where you see that gap between 430 and 429 is where the city has a lift station down there and can access that area. But then if you look to kind of the south, east over there, that area is all owned by the city, as well as, you know, where that wetland is to the west. So the concern with this, without knowing exactly what the property owner wants, and you're Orrin, right? You're with the other requests, okay. Without knowing exactly what the property owner wants, it, you know, that would be the concern is utilities. Right now, we wouldn't want anybody to, we won't want to get rid of property where the city has utilities, and that doesn't seem like it makes much sense. So, Andrew, do you have any thoughts on this? I don't know if you have anything different you want to share.
No, the main thing on this one specifically is the utilities in there, and, you know, I don't know, depending on what they wanted to purchase, you know, you could block it off, or you'd have to get a utility easement, or, you know, might get into a lot more work than it's worth.
Jennifer kind of focused on it a little bit. I mean, what the council has to determine if we're going to be selling any real estate is that it's something that's no longer necessary for the city. It would be very difficult for the city to justify the sale of real estate to a property owner if on one hand we're saying we don't need it, on the other hand saying we need to have an easement to go get to the utilities on it. You know, so, you know, you just, and again, I'm not speaking to the merits of the particular transactions. It's just a process and what you take a look going forward. Whatever you do here sets a precedent if there's other property owners that will you know, be looking at something similar and happening. You know, so generally, you know, my preference is when cities determine that we have excess real estate, that we take care of it or do something else because we don't want to take a look at it, not necessarily react to what a property owner may want. It should be something from the city saying it's not necessary, and then, you know, then we have to figure out what a reasonable price is for it.
So really, we don't know, what could be available in the first one, right? So we definitely don't want to.
Yeah, every parcel that would come to you would make an independent determination whether or not it's something that the city either needs now or would foreseeably need in the future. You know, but like I said, if it's something you need to get an easement over, it would seem to me that
We need
kind of make that a much more difficult situation for the city to justify, particularly if the compensation that the city is receiving isn't significant.
Then the next item, or the next property, we do have that property owner in the audience, and let's see. And this is, we have Orrin Johnson. He lives at 129 Connie Lane. Is that 111 Connie Lane, sorry. And he had shown on this drawing kind of the area he was looking at. So that's his property right here. And then I'm going to pull up, Andrew did pull up the utilities, and the utilities are in the street, not behind. So 111, yeah, sorry about that. So you can see the area he was looking at is over here. There is nothing there. The only question I guess I have, I know Mayor Whittington and I have discussed this before. There's a sign on this area off of Thomas that says no trespassing. It's owned by the state of Minnesota, Blue Earth County. But then on the beacon, it lists the city of Eagle Lake as the owner. So we'd want to verify, you know, I don't know if there's any restrictions on it. I need to talk to somebody.
Plus, you know, it is a wetland, you know, where does the the line go? You know, I'm not even going to attempt that word again. You know what I mean? So I think that would be the question for me. I am at 507 Thomas, almost not directly across, but I'm part of that wetland on the other side, so. I think that would be the biggest thing. You know, I think that some residents on that street are going into the wetlands. But I don't know where that delineation, got the word, is happening. Because we have a 25-foot setback from the delineation, as far as I understand, of hard surfaces. But I don't know of anything else.
So I started to send an email, because I'd called last week and I couldn't reach Jake Fritz with Soil and Water. I think he's the person I need to talk to, but I didn't get to finish the email to him today. So I will try to continue on with that and find out a little bit more information.
Yeah, I think that would be the only question I have. One is, you know, Director Hartman took a look at the utilities, which are all out in the street, but it's kind of nice having that wetland there, which has a lot of water out of my backyard anyway, kind of thing. So not messing with that is appropriate. And if we do determine as Blue Earth County, I have questions about noxious weeds for them. Does anybody along that wetland might have?
City staff will do some more research into that, but just to clarify in the record, so we're, make sure I'm under the same understanding, the 429 Owl Lane inquiry, I would respond, if I'm understanding correctly, that the city is not interested in selling at this time due to utility placement. And then we have Mr. Johnson in the audience this evening. We'll have to do more research and come back to the council.
Yeah, once we find that out, so we're not, you know, wetlands are touchy, right? Well, not wetlands, but the state and the county are touchy about wetlands.
Less maintenance
Oh,
for the city.
yeah, I'm sorry, I had that mute here. Yeah,
Well, I think we need to find out how big that wetland's supposed to be and kind of put that out there, and then we'll figure out what that should be. I do like in the summertime, I can't see County Lane from my house, my backyard, and you can't see my backyard. So, you know, that's kind of one of the reasons we bought the lot. So, you know, making sure that we keep that intact would be preferable. Do we want, on the Owl Lane, is there any, full disclosure, that is a person I know and is a friend of mine. So is there any, so we need all of that back behind there, or is that something that we need to, could or should map out to say we don't need these pieces? You know, I totally agree that we don't want to give up anything that we need now or think we're going to need in the future. You know, back there, because it's.
I'm wondering if he's not mowing the area. I don't know, because I don't go to the lift station. If he's mowing the area by the lift station, Andrew, or do you guys mow that? Because he alluded to he's been maintaining it.
Just depends on who gets to it first, really. If
Okay.
sometimes he does it on a weekend and we go down there Monday to mow it and it's mowed and back and forth. We've done it also, so.
Yeah, understanding what he was looking at. Yeah, he mentioned it to me, and I told him to contact you, so, and we didn't go any further of what he was talking about as he's maintaining. So, no, I think if there's nothing there, there's nothing there, and that's the message I would get to him, so. Anything more on that? Do we need any action on that, or just direction?
Jennifer and I spoke about that. You would just need to give direction on it. There's really no action items that you're taking at this point. You're just asking for some additional information so you guys can make a motion, and the other one is just kind of indicating that you're going to be maintaining the status quo, so you don't need a motion to remain the status quo.
Perfect. Moving on to the next item, pricing for City Hall re-roof.
All right, Mayor and City Council, I'll go through and read the memo that I prepared with information about proposals obtained, and we also have Mike Voss in the audience with Cato Roofing to help answer any questions you might have. So you, as especially law enforcement and Public Works is very familiar with, we had a significant water intrusion back in May. We had a lot of wind going on around that time, and ended up with the whole east side of City Hall having water coming in, and which we've never had happen before. So at the time, we had emergency repairs were completed to stop further leaks, and we worked with Cato Roofing at that time. They came out right away and helped us make those necessary repairs. The current roof, after having contractors take a look at it and give us pricing, have all said the same thing. We've reached the end of its useful life, and it's recommended at this time we move forward with a full re-roof. And City Hall was constructed back in 2009, which would put our roof at about 16 years old. So the re-roof project was not included in our 2025 budget because we weren't planning to do a re-roof project this year. Like I said, we'd never had any major roof issues here. We've had, occasional leaks, but nothing along the whole, spanning the whole west or east side of City Hall. And after talking with 4 different companies or contractors, if you will, and all telling us the same thing, that we really can't wait, I think we're kind of at a position where we really don't have much of a choice here right now. So we've got 4 quotes, or 4 proposals, excuse me. And we went through direct negotiations. So we got Cato Roofing, Ballman Roofing and Coating, Servpro, and the Garland Company. The lowest proposal came in from Cato Roofing at $97,412. They can still get the project done this year. Like I said, it wasn't something we budgeted for, but we do have money. In recent years, we've been setting aside just small amounts into our capital outlay for city facilities. So basically, once we do this and then we do the caulking that's needed on the outside of City Hall, we're pretty much gonna basically almost deplete the money that's there. But my concern is if we don't go ahead and get this done now, we don't know what next spring is gonna be like, and we could end up with even more damage to this beautiful building, and I don't think we wanna. We were really lucky when we had all the water that came in. We had, what was that color? They had the device to see if there was moisture in the walls. Fortunately, because our insurance adjuster wanted to get that done immediately, and we were very fortunate that we didn't have a lot of moisture detected in our walls. So that was one thing that we were really lucky for. So anyways, Public Works Director Hartman and I met with Mr. Voss, and we reviewed the proposal. Like I said, it can be done yet this year. And I'll let Mr. Voss kind of talk a little bit about, there will be some disruption to our operations at City Hall. I don't think there's any getting around that. But we're just eager to get this done and not have that headache. And it should last a good 15 years or.
Can you come up to the mic for us, please?
And you have to speak right into it. It's very sensitive. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me up here today. So with the new adhered system, and with the pricing that she had offered, you would be looking at 20 years, minimum of 20 years on it is the 20-year warranty with it. With that, what I've seen out of an adhered EPDM roof system is it is with maintenance, you can get 25 to 30 years out of it. Currently, it's got a ballast roof currently on there. That is where you got your 1.5 inch washboard rock on top. So the big differences between that and an adhered roof system is that ballast is what keeps everything underneath that is loose laid. So the expansion and contraction actually, it's like taking a wire, you bend it back and forth enough times. And so that ballast roofing system allows the most amount of expansion and contraction. With everything adhered, your insulation will be screwed down, the membrane adhered directly to the insulation, you're going to have very minimal expansion and contraction that can occur. So that would definitely be a very long-lasting roof system for you guys.
Any council members have questions? I have a quick couple. One is, it always concerns me when we have a big I'm not going to use that word. Big difference in the high and low. The other bids that we got were 3 times as much. So, just want to make sure that we're covered and we're going to get everything that we need. So I think that was my biggest question.
So, without seeing the other proposals, I'd be happy to look them over, either blackout prices or whatever. And so I'm assuming they did a full tear off as to where we are adding insulation on top of the existing insulation, and therefore reusing what's there. Any wet insulation obviously would have to be replaced. And that would be an extra forecast we took on each roof section, that we make sure that each rise where there's not anything expected that would be of any significant value or added cost.
Perfect.
I think another thing, if I don't mind me interrupting, but, because I had that same question when we met with the different companies. And I was told, we met with the two companies that had significantly higher proposals, was that they had more robust, like warranties and workmanship warranties. Is that what you took away too? Public Works Director Hartman and I met with everyone.
Yeah, and like the Garland company, they proposed a totally different roof system. Theirs was a multi-layered, I don't remember exactly what they called it, but
So I can speak to that without seeing the proposal, just knowing Garland as a company, we do work with them as well. So theirs is what is called a built-up roofing system. So everything's applied in hot asphalt. They probably screwed down their insulation, then hotted down the thermal barrier on top of that. Probably putting down a 3-ply with gravel on top, or maybe they're doing a smooth surface. I would assume probably or a 4-ply with gravel. It is a significantly more expensive roof system to install, very labor intensive. They're great roofing systems, not taking anything away from those, but they are very expensive to install. You really don't get any longer life expectancy out of the roof. Once again, though, they are a great roofing system and not taking anything away from that. With the adhered roof system, you will get the same life out of it as what you would with the built-up Garland system. And once again, I do believe when it says 3 times their cost, in my mind, just knowing it, they are tearing all that existing insulation off, disposing of that, and then installing it.
so with us putting insulation on top of insulation, is that gonna be more costly 25 years from now whenever we need to get another roof? Because I mean, you just keep on putting insulation on top, or maybe I'm misunderstanding something, or?
Nope, so per current state energy code, it's R30, but we are tearing off the existing roofing system or roofing membrane, and we're disposing of that. Now, if we were to leave that existing roofing membrane in place, in 25 years when you need to, or a re-roof is proposed again, if you left the membrane in place, you would have to tear it all off down to the deck. Now, with removing the membrane, you can just add additional insulation on top of that. Now, I have not seen the R values change in, I'm spitballing and guessing, probably 10 years. I don't expect that it's going to go up again anytime soon. So,
I'm assuming, I can't remember what type of roof is out here in the hallway.
they're all ballast up there right now.
Okay.
Yeah, ballast EPDM. And so that the roof system, the rub insulation, the rubber, it's all loose laid, and gravel is spread across the top to keep it all in place.
Could I ask another question, even though it's, we're gonna talk about later on the agenda, but one thing I think we talked to you, Mike, about, was we were, looking at maybe doing solar in public buildings, but I'm kind of leaning against it. From every company we talked to with the roofing projects said to be very cautious, and they weren't enthusiastic about putting solar on there. Do you have any thoughts on?
Correct, and solar.
On that.
It's definitely has its place, it's a good thing. If you were to install solar, I would highly, highly, highly recommend installing a cover board at this time now, even if you're projecting to do solar. So currently the installation that we're proposing to add on is at 20 PSI. So a cover board is anywhere 80 PSI and greater. Holds up to it. When you put solar up there, there's inherently going to be a lot more foot traffic. It's going to hold up to that foot traffic a lot better. So if that is something that you guys are seriously considering, I would be happy to, do an add option to put a cover board on there, so then you guys can, see that cost.
What's a ballpark number for that, you think?
I don't know right offhand, to be honest. I could throw a number out there and I'm just making it up.
As long as it's a little number, we're good with it.
It would not be a huge cost to the overall job, because you are still screwing everything down, you're only adding a 1/2 inch there, so you're gonna have a 1 inch longer screw than what is currently there. You know, I would have to guess, I don't wanna throw a number out.
No, that's fine.
Your timeframe to do the review, if the council goes ahead this evening, when would be a good time
If
to?
we were to roll ahead this week, to move forward with it, we could have a crew here tentatively, weather dependent, probably the second week of October, if not sooner. So,
Yeah, it's been a pretty dry summer, so.
it has been, it's been pretty wet right up until this point too, so. No, it's, schedules change every day, but as of right now, I would have a opening about the second week of October where we could get this in. I would expect the duration of the project to be about a week and a half. So, talking a little bit about disturbance of it as well, because that is very important to be very well informed of that. And so with, well, removing the ballast is gonna be a loud, noisy process. Up there, guys with shovels or backing it off, it's still gonna be very loud, noisy, and dusty. Then installing a new, roof membrane, you're gonna be screwing everything down through that steel deck. There's gonna be people up there moving rolls around. It's gonna sound like the building is gonna collapse. It is not, I can assure you of that. But once again, it is much easier to talk about this on the front end than it is on the back end, saying, whoa, hey, you know, it's, and we can also coordinate as well where people are working, what roof areas we're on. So this particular building does have, I believe, what is it, 5 different roof sections there. And so it's just a coordination ahead of time, so.
And how many days did you think the project would probably go?
Probably about a week and a half roughly, and those are just standard working days, so.
Could you review again, and I apologize if you covered it, just with us with warranty on it, what would be covered, you know, how long the warranty lasts?
Yeah, so I do believe, when we checked on this one, I do believe we did a 20-year warranty. Yeah, so there'd be a 20-year manufacturer's warranty. The first 2 years are covered by the contractor. That would cover any, if something was installed improperly. And so that, once again, our manufacturer does come out and inspect everything as well, but it is a 20-year manufacturer warranty. And really what that warranty is gonna cover is if the roof blows off, any roof leaks, what it doesn't cover is physical damage to the roof. So let's say we're up there, someone's changing HVAC, or someone goes up there and we have a lot of snow and they're shoveling and now there's 50 holes in the roof. So that is not going to be covered in that. One thing, and I don't believe there was any up there that you see quite often, is where you run into a lot of damage on flat roofs, is just your monthly maintenance on HVAC units. When they go up there, something gets dropped, they scuff their feet across the top of the roof. But I don't believe there's any HVAC units up there, if I recall correctly. So there's a couple PRVs, powered roof vents, but nothing that would be serviced.
With service on a routine basis. Okay. Thank you for that. So, discussion?
I'll make a motion to accept Cato Roofing Incorporated estimate.
All right, so we have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a first and second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, I hope you made it to your son's football game.
I did.
All right, perfect. No, thank you.
Thank
No
you.
worries. Next one, pricing of City Hall exterior building repairs.
Rains and pours. No, I'm just kidding. Mayor and City Council, during this process of having companies come out and look at our roofing system, some of the, it was observed, and then city staff had noticed it too. We have failing control joints on the building's exterior, and I do have a picture somewhere of this on my computer. I'll pull it up in just a minute. But basically, from what I understand, control joints are intentional gaps built into the masonry or concrete surfaces that allow the building to absorb movement caused by temperature changes, moisture expansion, or settling. So when these joints start to fail, the surrounding materials are at increased risk of cracking and water intrusion. So if you go outside, you'll see on the side here of the building, we've got where the caulking is gone. Apparently not many people do this work, and Public Works Director Hartman can share that more information with you on that. But what we do have, he obtained a proposal from Rice Companies, who's also doing the public workshop. Theirs came in the amount of $5,950 to do the work out here. And then the Garland Company, who we had talked to about the roofing project, had provided an estimate ranging from about $7,000 and $9,000 to take care of that. Again, this would have to come, it wasn't budgeted for, it'd have to come out of our general government capital outlay fund. There would be enough in there, but like I said, we'll be basically depleting what we have in there for that. So I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, Andrew. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Otherwise, I can try to find that picture. Okay.
Are we looking at recaulking all the joints or just the ones that are failing?
Maybe I'll let Andrew.
So this quote was to redo all of them. And then underneath the price, you can see the deduct. So if you wanted to do just the ones that are failing and then leave the ones that aren't failing, you would just deduct that linear footage price. But in the scheme of things, I think they're all weathered and, you know.
All the same age.
Right, they're all the same age, so they're all, you know, probably past their life expectancy anyway.
Next up will be the Public Works building next year.
We just have nice things. Then you have to maintain them, right?
Well, exactly, and I think when we do work on the budget here tomorrow at the budget work session, we just have to just keep being very intentional about continuing to set money aside and preserving our nice assets that we do have. So thankfully, we've got some money set aside, and I don't like it because our budget's going to be skewed, but what choice do we have right now? We really don't have a choice.
With them, will they be checking to make sure there's, you know, like that one's pretty well failed? Is there water damage, or do we think there's anything like that that needs to be attended to while they're there? Or?
I don't think so, being it's all just concrete. They'll pull that caulk out, and then there's a backer rod, like a foam backer inside of there. Yep.
Okay.
They can get this done this year?
Yes.
Can we do it at the same time that you're screwing the roof on?
So I'll make a motion to accept Rice Company.
I'll second the motion.
We have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. I don't like all these pricing things. It's kind of scary. All right, so the chemical metering pumps.
Yes, so down at our well house, we have, look at the quote, I think it's eight chemical feed pumps for the different chemicals we have. They're all kind of starting to show their age, and we've been repairing them, and now they're getting to the point where, you know, screws start to strip out and things just don't align up the way they used to on them. So we're requesting to get 8 new chemical feed pumps from Hawken Chemicals, where we get all of our chemical supplies from. From what I can find, the newest one was purchased like 10 years ago. So how old they are, I don't really know, but even our sales rep is like, these things are dinosaurs. So there's a lot better technology, and we can get a lot more accurate dosage with the newer pumps.
Is this cost installed?
We would install them ourselves
Oh, you
there.
install 'em.
Yep.
Okay.
It's just plug in and hook up two tubings to it, so. Second.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
First and second, any other discussion?
Yeah, let's, just like anything else, try not to have like, I don't know how old this is, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Try to keep track of this stuff, and, that way we kind of at least have an idea of
Right.
the span and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, everything,
Schedule?
What was it built in 2006 or 7 or something down there, so that'll be the oldest they remodeled it.
yeah, maybe, because I know well 2 was in there before they remodeled it. And I don't remember what year exactly the well 2 was put in. But on a lot of the newer stuff that we buy, we, either write the date on it or we have files and write the date on the manual of when we get them and things like that to try and help prevent these things.
So do we have, we're probably getting off the way of topic. Do we have an inventory of all those pieces like this, like Councilman White was saying, having the inventory of when they were replaced last, kind of estimated cost so we can get on a replacement? Knowing that these last about 8 years, but we use them for 10, kind of thing, so.
Maybe something we could start, and we probably just need to do it everywhere across the city.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was gonna be one of the questions I had, and I think it kind of comes up to probably more what's gonna probably come forth tomorrow, but what I feel like has happened all year long with both Public Works and the fire department, where they're coming to us with unexpected or unknown, or here's another thing, where it's like, we need to do a better job preparing or planning for some of these, larger expenses. Especially if we know they're getting to that point.
And I think the problem we've had in recent years is that we've inherited, the staff that's working here now has
Correct.
inherited a situation where we don't want to increase our budgets. We're supposed to cut our budget, but then we're working with not enough resource. We don't have the right equipment, we're working with outdated stuff. And so I feel like in the last few years, we've been playing catch up. And I think Public Works has made a lot of advancements. We've spent a lot of money, but I feel like we're finally catching up to where we need to be. So I agree with everything you say, but I just feel like
I think
we've been very behind.
Or
having
maybe
that-
it's having it where it's like, and I don't know, you might have it that in depth where we know that the caulking needs to be done at Public Works, or having all this list and like being able to navigate where they go in addition to the bigger budget expenditures or capital outlay expenditures that we have. Because I feel like both are targeting the fire truck or snow plows or like those big ticket pieces, but then a lot of these little nickel and dime things come up that eat away things pretty quickly
Well, we've
too.
been lucky, right? We built this building and the maintenance building about the same time. Now things are, it's like my house. The dishwasher went out. But if we have that inventory, being able to say that, we're going to replace these now and then 2034, so just being able to kind of see what those bubbles are. And then we can shift things around as we.
Just like at City Hall, these chairs, I think to myself, we don't have a plan. We need to start making lists, like you're saying, of
Right.
things that we need to replace and be prepared for, so, we're not all of a sudden just overwhelmed. So,
As we
and that's
see the
hopefully what
list.
we're gonna start doing with the budget.
Well, I
Better
think
job.
with that list, having that priority to say, the carpet needs to be done before the chairs and the microphones needed to be replaced a bit ago, kind of thing, so. Okay, so we got a first and a second. Do we already pass this? Nope. But we do have a first and a second, right? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright. You get one more pricing and that's it
Good luck.
for today.
Next, we got a few quotes we got one from WW and one from MPM for street repairs to do a 1.5 mill and overlay. WW came in cheaper and we've worked with them a ton in the past, so I'm just requesting that we go with them for street repairs for $52,479.
Is that what we budgeted? Or what did we budget for?
I don't remember what we had. What we budgeted was 120,000 What we have left in there currently, I'm not 100% positive. But I know there's enough in there to do this and the next item on the agenda.
And these were ones that we knew that we're gonna try to do this year, or are they addition to?
Yeah, these were on, a couple of these were on our list from last year, to do, that we didn't have, time
Time to do.
and money for last year, so we pushed them to this year.
I can tell you right now, there's, to answer Andrew's question, there's $94,000, almost $95,000 remaining right now.
It wasn't until you needed.
No.
no, just-
I guess that'd be one request that would help, at least me, is when we're looking at these, if there's nothing in the budgeted amount, and it's not a capital outlay, I just assume it's a pulling out of my pocket, I'm doing it, versus, no, we did budget this, it was part of it. So if we can make sure to put, even if it's zero, then we know that it wasn't budgeted, but you're requesting them, or yes, it is, and this how much is left. Then my other question being is, are we getting late in the season on doing some of this? Because I would have thought this would have been more of a spring or early summer bringing to us, or is this normal turnaround time, or timing for this stuff?
Yes.
It just feels late coming to us now saying, hey, approve this, and then when is it actually gonna get done?
Right, it's later. They can still get it in this year, so that's where we're at with that. Yeah, ideally, we would get it sooner in the year, but it just didn't work out in our schedule to go through. And it takes quite a bit of time to go through, and, we have to go through, look at all the streets, decide what is a priority and what isn't, and then, measure all the areas out, and then usually we end up going back after we give a couple of the contractors a call and say, hey, what are you charging? Then we either have to subtract what we had on our list and add, and
So do you guys already have, and I know the streets, we've brought it up several times, I think, and had that street inventory of which ones are next to get the full reconstruction, or which ones just need surface, things like that. Are you guys getting closer to that point of having some of that, or at least saying, okay, next year, these are the next on the agenda for just resurfacing, or wear course, or things like that, where it doesn't take you a week to have to go and do it all, you're just now fixing random potholes and things like that pop up through the winter? Or are you guys closer to getting that plan set, so we're not always having the conversation of, okay, which road do we do next, which one looks the worst?
I don't know
Or
that
how do we
would-
get to that point?
a lot of money. To get to the point of, where,
To get to the point of having a plan, right, of not
yeah.
like,
Just the point, right.
yeah, of waiting until September to approve road fixes, you know what I
No,
mean?
and Andrew has worked with, Brian Sarver with Bolton Mink, they do have a pavement, or we just went through that, was it last year? As we've got a document that kind of lays out the,
Yeah, I haven't seen the final, project, the final, whatever, the plan for that. I thought you were talking where are we at with getting the streets fixed to where we don't have to,
No, kind of, I mean, you're driving the city and making notes of all of it, and then, removing stuff because it's over budget, but then, is that on the list then as a top priority for the next year or something? So you're not having to
Right,
start at
yep.
zero every year
yep,
and do all the work, so having it, well, we're not waiting till September to have these numbers and now hoping that it's getting scrunched in and where are we sitting budget-wise and this and that.
Yeah, you should be able to tell us the next 5 roads for next year, already. Knowing that, winter happens,
Right,
those
and
might
that's-
not be the same 5 roads that we started with, but it could,
But how do we budget, and that'll be a conversation more for tomorrow, I guess, but how are we budgeting if we don't know what we're replacing?
I think in the past, what we've been doing is, just kind of having a dollar amount, then this is kind of what we work with. It's usually been around 100,000, this year was 120,000. But hopefully with the 2026 street and utility reconstruction project, that's gonna knock out a lot of stuff. I'm hoping that will really help us.
Well, we definitely have a lot more miles of roads today than we had even 5 years ago, so.
Right.
Well, I think overall, I mean, the majority of our city is pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
I would agree.
Yeah. And one thing that we do have to look at is, and I look back, like the last 5 years, for the amount of roads that we've gained in the last 5 years, I don't know that we've increased our budget to maintain them enough to make,
I propose that we're not going to unless you come with a plan. Because, in the simplest terms is if we got 100 miles and we have a 10-year plan, we do 10 miles a year. That's not what I'm proposing, but, having some kind of estimate, knowing that we've increased our overall mileage by 50%, we need to start edging that budget up because I don't know how long asphalt lasts, right? So if it lasts 10 years, so, we need to start ratcheting up that budget number. So, just having some kind of idea of what we're looking at. Because there will be trade-offs this year of what we can do, as there are every year. But, streets are very important. So, all right, do we vote on that? I'm so lost. We haven't voted on it? We have a first and second though, right?
No. I'll make a motion to approve WW blacktopping.
All right, so we have a first and second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Jennifer, you need to keep more control of this meeting.
Can I just make a comment? I know this is yours. I just want to say it. Okay, so but when we're talking about making concessions with our budget, that's exactly the problem that we have and that we've been told for every year and that's why we don't get ahead on things. So we're just trying to do the bare bones. We'll talk more about this tomorrow.
No,
but
totally.
there's no fluff in our budget. There really isn't.
No, there
So
hasn't
we'll
been.
talk more tomorrow
So,
night about that,
nope.
but.
Generally speaking. Yeah. So does that, you have manhole covers in here, is there, there we go, manhole covers. All right.
So, as many of you have probably heard, as we're plowing in the winter, we hit a lot of manholes that have either been improperly installed or improperly maintained. So this year I talked with, I actually drove around with Kurt from WW just to look at some of them and, how to go about it. And we kind of came up with a plan to just start cutting squares out around them, removing what we need to from the manhole to lower it down, and then re-blacktopping, it's probably a 5 foot by 5 foot area. I know in the past, the city has hired people to come in and heat up the asphalt and actually build it up around these manholes and stuff, and that's why you see some of them that just,
I
go.
avoid one every day.
Right, yep. So this is gonna fix some of them and some of the ones that are super bad for the plow trucks. I mean, we had the one year where it bent the wing on the plow truck. It can be an expensive fix hitting them, and you don't know where they're at when it snows. So we're gonna propose repairing roughly 30 manholes this year. WW's price came in at $22,350, and that would come out of the same street repair budget that the last one came out of. MPM didn't give me an exact price, they just gave me a price per, which was $950 each, and WW was $745 per manhole, so.
Any other questions for Director Hartman?
I'll make a motion to accept WW blacktop.
We have a first,
I'll second.
we have a first and second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, review Highway 14.
Mayor and City Council, so following the council meeting where Angie with Bolton and Mank and the PMT was at our meeting, they had asked me to get some clarification from the City Council, and if you'll see in your packet on page 108, there's a draft Highway 14 Eagle Lake study recommendations. They wanted to know, or wanted me to ask you, why was an overpass with a right-in, right-out at CASA 1727 preferred by the council? So I said I don't want to speak on behalf of the council. I would bring this back to you so we could review that tonight. And I did include the slides that we've looked at before, and I hope that's enough here to be able to give them back some feedback. So I don't mean to open up a discussion that was very lengthy last time, but if there's anybody that wants to just clarify that and just make sure that I'm accurately reflecting what the city council is saying, that would be appreciated. So the motion that was passed at that last meeting was in support of concept A by, which includes an overpass with a right-in and right-out design at CASA 1727. And then, let's see if I can find, if you want me to pull up those drawings, I can do that. Let's see here.
So the question is she's wondering why we wanted a right in and right out at 17 and 27?
Yes.
Wasn't that just because that's what the concept says?
I was gonna say, that's what I recall, is we went,
Okay.
or at least voted concept A, which was what is on there.
So we just,
Well,
We
we
wanted a
wanted the
high
high
T
T at
at
56.
56, and then just got that with it, right? I think we wanted
Wasn't that
D2, but
just
that
what the
wasn't.
that's not
concept
gonna pull
was?
it up. Yep, hold on. Let's see.
It's not that we preferred it, that's just part of concept A, that's what we,
So,
Right. We had to choose between A and D,
yeah.
as it laid out for the PMT.
We chose what they had, on their concepts.
Okay, let me find concept A, guys, I'm sorry.
Do they
We
not
wouldn't-
remember?
Looking at this sideways.
we wouldn't be
Yeah,
heartbroken if that was.
I guess I'm
a full
confused by
interchange.
this question, because the whole team was here, so I'm confused by this question on what wasn't clear after an hour and a half conversation.
Okay, hold on.
But we couldn't cherry pick what we wanted, because I think we even asked if we could, and they said, no, it's between A and D.
Yeah.
So I'll just respond that we just went with what was presented for
That was-
concept A
that was
and.
A.
Concept A.
A has a right in and right out, that's it, right?
Yep. I didn't know how to respond to it, because I'm like, am I missing something? I don't know. Okay, thank you, we can
Well,
move on
A
next.
has a right in and right out, but it's a split, it's not
It's right in,
just
right out
right
with
in
the
and right out.
overpass.
You still had a way to get across the highway there, because there was an overpass too, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's D, right? Can you bring up A?
Where's A? Why is A not in here? It should be, hold on.
I think 93.
Page 93? Oh, okay, thank you, guys. That's it. Perfect. Here, I'll scroll down. Oops. Get my fingers to work here.
Yeah, we just approved what that was that
So,
exact.
right, so it was right in, right out, but it's split, so it did have a right in and right out on the westbound side,
Doesn't it say overpass on it?
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it says overpass and then a right in, right out, based on whether you want to go east or
So it
west.
wasn't just right in and right out. It's 1727.
So they're confused on their own concept,
I'm confused.
I'll just go back with this is what, I'll show them concept A
Well,
is what the council
I don't want to speak for
wanted.
the council, but if they want to put a full interchange there and a high T,
We wanted D2, which was
I
the high
think we
T
would
of
be okay
interchange.
with that.
Yep, okay. All right, that helps. Thank you, guys.
We're trying to get it right in and right out and everything.
With as sensitive as this is, I said I don't want to be
No, I
making
think we
any
need to be
guesses
very
here.
clear that it's just not right in and right out. We didn't agree to just that. We agreed to concept A, which included a split, an overpass and a way to go east and west.
An overpass with the right in, right out. Yep.
As their concept.
As
Reflects.
their concept. just
Okay, nope,
because
that helps,
They have that
guys.
little spur by the cemetery to go west. Come off the west and go on the west, right in, right out west.
Okay, thank you.
Words matter. All right, so we had 2 additions.
All right.
Did you have the information on the basketball?
Yes, so I did put that in front of your respective spots here at the table. So just give you a little background, at the May Park Board meeting, Public Works Director Hartman presented pricing for a basketball court, fence, and backstop. And then at that time, the Park Board said, they weren't sure if they wanted to use park funds for that, or if it should be a park fund, capital outlay fund, or if it should come out of maintenance. Well, it wasn't something that was planned for, and it kind of feels like it's a capital outlay item. So there's kind of back and forth, and then at that time, the park board just said, you know what, let's just go ahead and do the fencing behind where around the rink for like the hockey pucks and such. And so they fixed that, but we had held off on this. But since that time, a couple people have contacted some of our park board members, and then also I included 2 emails that were received from some users of the basketball courts asking for a backstop. So Public Works Director Hartman contacted SunUp today and verified that the $5,692.50 is still valid. But we would recommend that it come out of the Park Board's capital outlay funds. There's currently about $60,000 in there, so there is funding for it. If the council's interested, we want to just go ahead. And I guess the other thing is I have,
I'm a visual learner, sorry. Is it just a higher backstop fence net behind each standard?
So this will be a fence behind each
Basketball standard?
backboard, and then the fence will come down at an angle back into, it'll be chain link, and it'll come back down at an angle into the basketball court or hockey rink, just to help. There's a lot of discussion on going with the netting style and things like that, but the way kids are down at the park, that'll never hold up, so.
In his background, before the hoops got replaced, we paid to have a fence put up. So with the old hoops, the park board paid to have a fence put up, but because of the way the new hoops are that are down there now, the fence had to come completely down. So there's poles for the fence, but we can't reinstall the old fence based on how the new hoops are laid out. So there kept being discussion back and forth, get pricing for net, do this, and it never went anywhere. And I think it was get pricing from SunUp or confirm that, and then bring it to the council. If council approves it, kind of move forward with it, because it is annoying to have it bounce off and then jump over the boards to get out.
A couple of questions. One is get better and hit the backboard. 2 is there any issue with that chain link coming to the top of the hockey fence? There's no issue there?
Other than when I have to clear it off.
You have to be strategic of where you throw it over. No, it would make it more enjoyable if you're not constantly chasing a basketball into the parking lot.
Short of the conversation where we said the next best option would be having removable boards, but that's not a feasible option, where then you wouldn't need that at all. But that's an area we're not going down.
Removable backstops.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the quote from SunUp.
We have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the next one is the solar proposal.
all right, Mayor and City Council, I've been kind of trying to just hit the pause button on this. I don't know if you recall, but Sabri with Region 9 attended a city council meeting probably last spring. And we talked about, he might be able to help us apply for solar on public buildings grant. And so we've worked together in that. We got a grant, about $38,000. But I just told them we need to kind of hit the pause button because I didn't know what we were gonna do with our roof. Now that we know what we're gonna do with the roof, I'm really not, I want to be a part of this, but yet I don't wanna cause problems for the city in the future, and I'm very leery about this in the sense that we just approved to get a re-roof, and we were told probably about 20 years. Now, the useful life of the agreement would be 25 years with solar, and it sounds good now, but I don't know what it's gonna be like later to remove the equipment, then you have to store it, reinstall it, and then there's the decommission aspect, and it's like I feel like there's just so many unknowns, I don't wanna burden the city down the road, but just to give you a little more information, so I did, so it'd be 25-year term, it'd be on top of City Hall. They're saying, and I don't know how they come up with these calculations, that we'd have about a $60,000 electricity savings over this time period. But we don't know how much it would cost to have to go up and make repairs or the extra stress on the roof. I don't know, I just feel like there's so many question marks and unknown. I hate to not be a part of this because I really wanted to, but I just personally don't feel like I know enough to feel confident to say, yeah, let's go ahead with this. So I talked to the lady today and I said, because they want us to sign the contract, and I said, I'm gonna have to talk to the council and see what the council wants to do. It would be nice, but I think maybe we need to find a place that's freestanding, or I just don't know if we want to put that on this building.
Yeah, let me interject. I know a building right now in Mankato that put a new roof on in 2014, and put solar panels on the roof as well. And the solar panels have just been taken off of the roof, and they're putting a new roof on. And it's a rather big project. So I would echo what you say about putting solar panels not on a roof, especially after hearing what Mike said. I would say that it might just be a thing that we should maybe look at doing in another area at another time.
I'd agree.
And I'm not against solar panels, but I'm just saying on the roofs, I think, especially with having to redo the roof and, the added weight, et cetera.
Not too excited about putting a bunch of holes in a $100,000 roof either, so, the little hometown in Iowa, they have a lot of kind of concepts that, they're freestanding. At the grade school, they actually made it a covering for the bus stop, when the bus pulls up to on board and off board the kids, that's freestanding. So I think there's other things we might want to look at that might be freestanding as opposed to punching a bunch of holes in. And I'm kind of I don't think we'd see a $60,000 savings over that 10 years or whatever that is, so.
Yeah, I feel bad because you always hear, well, how come the city didn't take advantage of this grant program or that? But I think we did our due diligence, and I just don't, with the stretch it is to try to get this re-roof done, I just hate to put the city in a position down the road to have unexpected surprise costs, and then looking back at all of us, looking at the minutes, what were they thinking? Or, I don't know,
There's
so.
two issues. One, it probably will shorten the life of the roof, and two is disposal of solar panels in 10 years or whatever is becoming more and more expensive because they're not recyclable. And in some cases, they're hazardous waste. So I'm good with pausing and letting them know that, we're not moving forward. Not only pausing, but, kind of returning the grant. Do we need a motion for that?
Probably, so I don't,
Yep.
as staff.
I'll make a motion to decline the grant.
We have a first and second. Any other discussion?
Is that grant only for on the roof? I mean, can we put that somewhere else, or is it only for on the roof?
I'll check into that, but I'm pretty sure it's on public buildings. And the other thing is I don't even know where we would put freestanding, because we were talking about that too internally. Where would we, I don't know where we'd even, I'll certainly ask about that.
Well, like we
say.
talked about in some of the other, whether it's vehicles being left on the streets that we're getting complaints on, or garbage, or how we're talking on the native prairie, or where does it start, where does it stop, and not having it be an eyesore, a big solar field in the back of this, is that really what we want it to look like, So if we can get creative and I have seen the bus stop shelters and things like that are creatively done, but they don't look like an eyesore, that's one thing, but if we're putting big fields of them out there, is that what we want?
Yeah, definitely revisit it, but yeah.
So we have a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Jennifer, your
Okay,
reports.
I will get going here. Let's see. Find my page here. One second. Oh, just a second. It's in here, guys. Okay, there we go. I got it. All right, I had added a couple things so I wouldn't forget it before I got to my report. So just as you guys see every month, there's a year-to-date expense revenue report. An update on the congressionally directed spending request. Mayor Whittington and I had met with our federal representatives and asked for $5 million. They've come back and said that they have us in the running for $1,050,000, yes. And so I guess anything is better than nothing, but we'll just keep you posted on that. It obviously has to be approved by the House and then signed into law before it becomes effective. But a little bit more promising than what we're looking at on the state side, as we haven't received anything from that. So we'll keep you posted on that. Next up, there's a Minnesota Valley Council of Governments General Assembly meeting scheduled for September 17th. It'll be at the Pond on Madison Avenue. I'll be attending. If any of you are interested in attending, it'd be great. One of the topics I personally requested that they have on this is the paid leave and how that's going to impact cities and budgets. So let me know if you want to attend. There's no cost for you to attend. Next item, Foundations of the Future Child Care and Economic Development Conference. The city is working with First Children's Finance, and they've invited any city representatives to attend a conference coming up. It's free. It's about the future child care and economic development. It'll be in October on the 23rd in Alexandria. I am going to attend, and just like I offered the RCCIP group, if anybody wants to ride with me, I could fit 3 people in my car, so we could carpool. Next item, I received notice from Excel that they're applying for authority to increase their electric rates, and I don't know what action like a small city like the city of Eagle Lake would take, but just we're supposed to post it and let people know about that. Budget work session tomorrow night, 5 o'clock. We'll have some food here, and I know it's right after work, so we appreciate your time. We initially set it up at 5 because we were going to meet at the fire hall for a meeting with the fire department and their personnel policy. Has been canceled because they want more time to work on that, but we still probably want to be mindful of that time frame because we have the fire chief and assistant chief will be at the meeting tomorrow night. So I think we'll probably wrap up by 6:30 hopefully. Employee leave balances, I always put this in here now, so if you have any questions, let me know. An exciting concept is that Lieutenant Gaylor with the Sheriff's Office pitched, and he also included in his report a concept called the Eagle Lake Helping Hands. It's basically like a community volunteer initiative where we engage law enforcement, youth, and the Eagle Lake Area Lions Club. And very excited about that idea. It's just so many good things I think that can come out of it. Good thing for our community and helping people that could be elderly or people with mobility restrictions, and just engaging youth and having a positive relationship with law enforcement. I know Lieutenant Gaylor's son and his deputies have done an amazing job with the school and really building relationships with the young people and their parents with pick up and drop off and, just friendly wave, smile. It's gone a long way. And then just with the Blue Earth County Sheriff's Office and they're patrolling around town and just being very friendly and having a good relationship with people. But some of the projects we talked about, we're doing like raking leaves, picking up litter, weeding. Lieutenant Gaylor came to the Lions Club, made his pitch. They're super excited about it. So we've got a subcommittee formed, and we'll get more information out and get that launched. But I think it'll be it's a really good thing for the community. And then lastly, fire department policy update. I already covered this. The fire department has requested additional time to review their draft policy internally before bringing it back to the council. We were going to bring it to tonight for the council to approve, and they just said, hey, we just want a little more time. No problem. We know when we went through the personnel policy, that's a big deal. I mean, we had a staff lunch, and I think it took us like an hour and 15, hour and a half just to get through, and I had 60-some slides. It's a lot. So better take your time. And I think that's all I've got. Thank you. Oh, I do have one more thing. I just want to say congratulations to Mayor Whittington and his wife Audra on becoming new grandparents. Pretty exciting.
Definitely excited, so. Council member reports.
Not really report from a committee per se, but, and maybe more of a question for tomorrow, but an email from Kent with LJP. I don't know if everybody got that email today. So I'll forward it to you because it talked about, LJP increases and like from 50 to 200% increases. So I'll forward it to you and I don't know why I got it.
What's the name? Who's the person?
Kent
your personal
with
or
LJP. I'll forward it to you because I guess I assumed everybody got it.
Yeah, no, have not seen that yet. Haven't-
It was a real email, like what the actual email
Well,
address was?
yeah, I mean, it talked about Blue Earth County and Mankato community leaders, which maybe I'm part of Mankato, I don't know. But it just went into that they, Excel doesn't want them, or doesn't want outside
I got it too. Ken
building.
Darrow.
Yeah. So I forwarded it to you, Jennifer, so you have it. Cause just thinking on what that's gonna mean for tomorrow, or like budget-wise, or how that pertains.
It's a real sender too.
I don't know if that has anything to do with our city contract, though.
So that was more my question, and again, probably.
Oh,
more
well,
better
it might,
suited
because
for
we do
tomorrow.
have the Minnesota Waste Processing
Yeah, it says,
Company.
Among the consequences of a county-owned RDF processing facility are that residential garbage disposal rates would increase by 50%, business by 200%.
So it's not that LJP is increasing their costs, it's the, if I'm
Well,
reading
it's
this,
there- It says.
it's Minnesota Waste Processing Company. Is that right?
Well, they're holding work session to discuss.
It sounds like the county wants to do something, LJP doesn't like it, so they're sending out an email about it. So I'd like to hear what the other side of the coin is, what's the county's reasoning for wanting to do it, and, but.
Yeah, I didn't know. I will research it, guys. Thank you.
I assumed you got it, so you have it now.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, I guess the only other thing I would have is just thanking the Summer Sounds Committee on an outstanding summer. Could not have done it and would not have happened without you guys, and it was wonderful to see. And that couldn't have happened without Public Works doing their part and having everything ready to go, and the Sheriff's Department showing up all the time. So just massive thank you to all the committees and staff that have helped throughout all the summer and making the city what it is. That's all I got.
Yeah, just happy with the turnout for the ribbon cutting at the Little Eagles preschool. There's a lot of people that showed up and a lot of support, which is great because Miss Beth is awesome. First day was today and it went great, so hopefully that just grows and grows and grows.
Got nothing.
We did not have a EDA meeting this past month, so nothing there, so. Upcoming announcements, special session tomorrow, 5 o'clock back here. Regular city council, October 6th. EDA meeting, September 25th. Park board is September 11th, and then regular planning commission meeting is September 15th. So I don't think we have any other items, so I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
We're so used to these short meetings lately, you guys, and now it feels like a long time. And I told Mitch you're gonna be out here early, Andrew. That's why I said, just be quiet.
You would keep adding stuff to the agenda. You got your little guy?